On today's episode, we have episode 2 of our team-by-team fantasy football previews where we go division by division to find each team's most relevant fantasy storylines. On episode 1 of our team-by-team previews, we covered the NFC East and North. Next up, we have the NFC South and West. I don't know why I chose East and North and South and West. I feel like I kind of missed a gimme there, but we're different here. We're taking a different angle on the Regression to the Mean podcast. Before we get into that, today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best ball on Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest way to play fantasy football. Just draft your team and that's it. No waivers, trades, or weekly start-sit decisions. Underdog will automatically play your best players at each position every week. Sign up today with promo code RTM, again, RTM, to receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. You can sign up for as little as $10 to start drafting today. And if kicking things off, we have Aidan talking to us about his beloved New Orleans Saints. Do you have a future bet yet on them winning the division? Because if you don't, you should go log it because you love this team. Tell us a little bit why you love the New Orleans Saints, Aidan.
Yeah, not yet. The only future that's currently in is Bears over 7.5. That is Bears higher, 7.5. And yeah, so that's the only one right now. But getting back to the Saints, I think the biggest storyline here, obviously, that we're all excited about is kind of how high is the ceiling for Chris Olave with the addition of Derek Carr. He finished last year as wide receiver 25 with just over 13 points a game. I think we're going to see a pretty massive jump from him. Going back to that stat line, that was a little over 70 catches, about 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think we see him closer to 100 yards, probably jump another 30 receptions, probably about another 400 yards to get to maybe the 1,400, 1,500 yard mark. And I'd say his touchdowns also double. 4 does not feel like enough with Derek Carr, especially with his ability to take the deep shot. So I think he definitely gets into that wide receiver 1 range this year in terms of those top 12 wide receivers. So we'll see. I'm really excited for Chris Olave. I think that's really the only person on that team that I'm dying to target. I know some people are a little cautious about Michael Thomas returning. And to be honest, I'm not. A fun stat that I saw from our guy Kev, aka the Road Toe Surgeon, was that N'Keal Harry has the same amount of yards and touchdowns as Michael Thomas since 2020. N'Keal Harry hasn't been good. Michael Thomas can't stay on the field. If you're targeting Michael Thomas in any format, just go ahead. If you have any open seats in your league, I'd love to join. I'd love to join. And then, I don't know, I know we're all kind of curious about what's going on with the running back room there too. It's a bit of a mess. The longer we go on in the summer without clarity on Alvin Kamara, it's really confusing to know how that's going to unfold. I think in terms of targeting the running backs, your probably best bet is to target them in best ball. I'm fine taking some of those guys at their ADP in best ball, but going all in on Kamara, Jamal Williams, or Kendre Miller in your redraft league just doesn't feel very safe. Yeah, I'd say the biggest storyline here is Chris Olave to the moon.
Aidan, I have a question for you, or Keegan too, when you're done eating your fucking sour Skittles. I've got a question. Good. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear Chris Olave leads this team in targets next season. Who is the second target earner in this offense out of, say, Kamara, Slant Boy, Kendre Miller, Juwan Johnson? Who is the number 2 target in the Saints offense behind Chris Olave this season?
Michael Thomas.
Okay, we have Michael Thomas. Aidan,
I don't think he's going to stay healthy enough, dude.
Say it. I want you to say it. I know you want to say it, Aidan. I believe in you.
Rashid Shaheed.
Oh, whoa. I thought you were going to go Juwan Johnson. I forgot about Rashid Shaheed.
No, I'm a big JJ guy. I'm going Rashid Shaheed. Again, I think his skill set really matches up with Derek Carr's, deep threat and stretching the field abilities too. So I just don't see Michael Thomas playing more than 8 games. That dude is dust at this point. It's like his inability to stay on the field is concerning. So I'm going Rashid Shaheed. Boom. Wow. That's my answer.
I'm going Juwan Johnson or Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara is still a sleeper to be second in targets in this team. I wouldn't be that surprised. Do you really think Michael Thomas is going to play, Keegan?
It's so tough. I mean, we're in what is it? It's July. I'm trying to project if he's going to play a full season or not. Right now, I'm just assuming that he's healthy, and I'm going to go ahead and say that he'll lead the team or he'll be second in targets behind Olave. This is also an offense that I think was 26th in pass attempts last year. Like, it's pretty conservative play calling. So there's not actually a ton of targets to go around for the Saints next year in general. So it could be a toss-up at the 2 spot. I think Shaheed is a great deep threat and definitely a fun late-round flyer for fantasy. But if Alvin Kamara is going to miss 6 games, I think it could be Michael Thomas. Some quick, short, intermediate slant stuff, like middle of the field play. I think he'll rack up some targets as long as he stays healthy. He'd be a good target for Derek Carr.
Massive if.
Of course.
Something that's not a massive if is that Arthur Smith is still the coach of the Falcons and still looks like a vampire. He still does look like a vampire, Mr. Arthur Smith. Keegan, tell us a little bit. No one laughed at my vampire joke. I feel a little deflated there. I didn't even get a laugh, a smirk.
He does look like a Count Dracula type.
Thank you. He does look like Count Dracula. I
want to run the ball.
Solid. Keegan, tell us a little bit about the Atlanta Falcons heading into the 2020. That's big for the program here. Tell us a little bit about the 2023 Falcons.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't want to talk about Bijan too much, but the obvious thing is, like, this is going to be a run-heavy offense team again. They spent significant draft capital on Bijan Robinson. They also still have Tyler Allgeier, and they are going to run the damn ball again, and they're going to establish it. But I do not think they're going to establish it at the level that they did last year. What's interesting about the Falcons is I don't know that the fantasy community or even us in general are super high on Desmond Ridder, but the entire offensive team, well, between Pitts, London, Bijan, and Allgeier, are priced as if we believe in Desmond Ridder. So I think among the community and among fantasy circles, there is belief that there is good fantasy value to be had in some of these skilled players on the Falcons. Moving on to the pass catchers, it's really Pitts and it's London, and that's it. I mean, quickly off the top of your head, somebody tell me who wide receiver 3 is for the Atlanta Falcons right now.
Zacchaeus.
Isn't Scotty Miller
still on the
there?
squad? Oh, I know who it is.
Scotty Miller. No, it's Scotty Miller.
Nope, it's not.
I know who it is. I was just seeing.
I'll
this.
give you guys
It's Matt
another
Collins.
second.
It's Matt
There you
Collins.
go.
I knew it. Oh, and
right.
Kadarrell Hodge. I didn't know J.J. Arcega
Okay.
was. Wow, that receiving
Wide
corps
receiver
sucks.
3, to your question, is technically Scotty Miller.
No,
No,
it's probably
Mackie
Matt
Collins.
Collins. Okay.
But
Good.
he'd be
That
wide
was
receiver too.
exercise.
He'd
No,
be
he's wide receiver
too.
2. You're right. It's third pass catcher. Oh, jeez, that receiving corps.
It's
sucks.
however you want to look at it. But the point I'm trying to make is it's really Pitts in London, and that's it. And that's who you're targeting in fantasy, and that's who that matters. And, luckily for Scotty Miller and Matt Collins and Kadarrell Hodge, last year Falcons used 3 wide receiver sets on 35% of the time. They were 31st in the league in 3 wide receiver sets last year. So really, it's London, Pitts, it's Bijan, it's Allgeier, and anything after that is just crumbs for the taking. So I think as far as fantasy goes, you're drafting Bijan already kind of, it's great. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think how they run their offense and how they plan to roll out their offense this year I'd expect some more play action, lots of deep shots. There was a lot of missed balls left out on the field for Pitts and London in general, having one of the lowest catchable ball rates in the entire NFL last year. So I think they're priced accordingly in fantasy. I think Drake London is a stud. I think Kyle Pitts has plenty of room for bounce back. I think people are freaking out about not wanting to touch him this year after he had a just weird outlier of a quarterback season. And then, just quickly, as far as it goes for Bijan, listen to this. 32 rookie running backs have posted a top 24 PPR per game production over the past 10 years, minimum of 8 games. 25 of those 32, so that's 78%, were selected inside the first 3 rounds. And 10 of the 12 first-round running backs drafted since 2015 racked up 197 plus touches in their debut campaign. So we're talking
chills.
Yes. I mean, it's going to be Bijan all day. It's all day. And I think my favorite part of this offense is probably the Pitts discount that you can get on a freak tight end. And you're also going to get a discount on a late round running back flyer who's perfect for 0 RB builds in Tyler Allgeier. I kind of love the Falcons this year. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch.
What are your thoughts on Tyler Allgeier, it kind of being a committee out of the gates? Because I know that sounds insane, but this is Arthur Smith we're talking about, and it would be peak Arthur Smith to have Tyler Allgeier get 8 to 10 carries a game. Do we think that happens? Because I'm kind of nervous.
It would be, but I won't make that a call or think that it happens until we get into like full blown like preseason and like training camp practice, and you start hearing some more things. Because look, Bijan is such a special talent, and I'm not knocking Tyler Allgeier. He's actually a great running back. He was great in college. He had a great rookie year. We think Arthur Smith is a donkey, Shaun, and he wound up in our fantasy jail a lot last year, but I don't think anybody's that much of a donkey to keep somebody off the field like Bijan. So I'm not too worried about it, but I do think there's a lot of touches to go around for both running backs.
I was thinking about it, actually, to Shaun's question, and I think there's actually a world where that happens, because I think there's going to be a lot of times where both running backs are on the field, and you kind of motion out Bijan or something to get that light box. So at first, I was shaking my head like, that's crazy. But they can coexist on the field together. They're going to put Bijan in the slot. Like, we've been watching him in OTAs. So actually, I do think that is possible. I don't think that's as crazy as, the thought may sound.
They've got 4 good players, boys, and all 4 of them, I think, are fantasy relevant to an extent.
They're going to eat.
That's pretty cool.
I was looking through JJ Zacharyason's prospect model. JJ was going through wide receivers in their rookie seasons that had comparable statistics to what Drake London put up in his first season as a rookie. And he essentially has this prospect score, and Drake London came in at a 98.4% prospect score in his rookie season. His year 2 model has him favorably compared to Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and Justin Blackmon, and that on average, a prospect that finishes with a 98.4% prospect score in their first season goes on to average 18 fantasy points per game in year 2. So that's kind of the rarefied air that Drake London is in. I think Pitts at ADP at 68 is an absolute smash. Somebody who isn't really a smash is Baker Mayfield. I don't think I will be drafting any Baker Mayfield. And I'm approaching this Buccaneers offense very tepidly. So I understand that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are absolute ballers. We are huge fans of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on this podcast. But the QB situation is an issue for Tampa Bay supporting both of these wide receivers because Baker Mayfield is not Tom Brady. Now, I think that Baker Mayfield could have a decent bounce back season and be palatable, at least for these 2 wide receivers. But not enough people are talking about the eventual passing volume regression that's coming from the Bucs. So in 2021, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers averaged 43 pass attempts per game, which led the league. Usually, when you lead the league in pass attempts, you regress back to the mean. Shout out the Regression to the Mean podcast, promo code RTM, go draft an underdog. But typically, when you lead the league in passing, you will regress. In 2022, they said, hold my beer, and threw the ball 2 more times per game and led the league for back-to-back seasons. So again, in both of those seasons in 2021 and 2022, they were 4 more pass attempts per game than the next team. With Baker Mayfield, I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be throwing at that clip anymore. I think this could be a more balanced offense, which could lead to a decrease in both volume and efficiency, which kind of seems like nightmare fuel for both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So I understand the talent is there, but volume is down, and efficiency is probably going to be down as well, which means I guess both of these guys are relatively cheap at ADP, given that their talent. You have Mike Evans in the 7th round, which kind of feels like stealing, and Chris Godwin in like the 6th, 5th. Like, both these guys are accurately priced for that decrease in efficiency and volume, but kind of just seems like a stay away. Like, if both of these guys are quite good, I can just live with it, But everyone in this offense is relatively cheap, and they do have good players on the team still. Like, they're not complete dust. So I'm curious to know how you're approaching it.
I think it sucks, first off, for Mike Evans. Yeah. Big president of Mike Evans fan club here. Me and Aidan are co-leading that, I think, for sure. But there's offense.
I'm in that. Come on here.
Yeah, of course.
Don't snipe me. I'm a card-carrying member for years.
Of course. I think there's still fantasy value in this offense, believe it or not. Rachaad White, to me, feels like a guy that you just grab in a 0 RB build, and he's going to amass volume, and he's going to catch targets out of the backfield, and it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be James Conner light. If James Conner was a Bud Heavy, Rachaad White is a Bud Light, basically. And
oh my God, people are going to stop listening to this podcast now because you mentioned Bud Light. That was not a political take. No, I'm just fucking around. What were you saying?
And then Chris Godwin, too, because of his game is better fit to a quarterback that can't really throw more than 15 yards, a.k.a. Baker Mayfield. So I think Chris Godwin's that value. And if Mike Evans falls in the draft and he's like 2 rounds past ADP, I'm probably gonna grab him. It's still Mike Evans. I mean,
in the eighth round, like, I mean, that kind of feels like stealing. I get
this team is good. It's just their quarterback is so bad. It's really, really bad.
That's a big problem for him. I think his streak of 1,000+ yards is in serious danger. I'm still scooping up Godwin, though. I think he only got better as the year went on, coming off his ACL. And like you mentioned, like Noodle Arm Baker, I think he's still going to get plenty of volume. So I'm actually still pretty bullish on Chris Godwin this year. But yeah, Mike Evans, probably more of a best ball guy for me because he's going to have those pop games. But man, having those consistent games that he's used to and that we're all used to in the fantasy world they're not going to happen very often this year.
Shaun, I was so excited for second year Kate Otten breakout last year. It's all I could dream about.
He was a rookie, I thought. Wasn't Kate Otten a rookie?
That's what I'm saying. Last year when he was a rookie, all I could dream about was his second year breakout season at the tight end position. And I'm gonna get robbed.
No one's talking
about Kate Otten anymore. What's going on? Why is that? No one's talking about Kate Otten.
There's no dialogue being had. There's no dialogue. None. Why is he on waivers?
We might be the first people to mention
Kate Otten to talk about Kate Otten
in months. So Aidan, you are a major fan of Mike Evans, but this last team in the NFC South, not the biggest fan. And Keegan and I, we always wonder why you're rooting for the Carolina Panthers to not be good. I wonder why. The Bears might have their pick. But Aidan, tell us a little bit about the Carolina Panthers fantasy prospects in 2023.
This is a bit of a dark hole, in my opinion, in terms of your fantasy prospects this year. I don't think there's a lot of guys that are going to be winning you leagues on this roster. Just starting with the quarterback position, typically rookie quarterbacks don't produce very much their first year, especially a guy like Bryce Young, who doesn't have a ton of rushing upside. So, again, Not very high on him. Which leads me to probably like your kind of number one guy that like you would be targeting on this team, and that's Miles Sanders, which, I have mixed feelings about. We continue to get reports that this is a 3-down back that's going to get a ton of volume. Hasn't been a great pass catcher since his rookie year, but he's getting paid like a 3-down back, and it's really just Chuba Hubbard behind him. But at ADP, it really doesn't do it for me. In my rankings, a couple of running backs I've got in a similar range are guys like Dameon Pierce, Jahmyr Gibbs, who else I got? Najee Harris a little ahead of that. It's just not someone that I'm very comfortable with taking at that position. I'd rather take one of those other running backs I mentioned or continue to stack some of those other wide receivers. So again, I could completely eat it and be wrong on Miles Sanders. It's just I just don't see the buzz that a lot of people are very high on. And then aside from that, like if you could pick out right now who's going to be the number one wide receiver in terms of fantasy for the Carolina Panthers, go ahead and give me your crystal. Is it the ghost of Adam Thielen? Is the Terrace Marshall breakout season finally upon us? Is it Jonathan Mingo? I don't know. If you're targeting any of them, go ahead. The best way to, for me to sum up the Carolina Panthers is just best ball is I feel much more comfortable taking swings at best ball because I just think there's going to be so much inconsistency with this offense. The defense actually will keep them in games. I'd love for them to go 0-17, but that's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to win, half a dozen games and be a scrappy team, but I don't know. It's really dark. What do you got? Are you trying to scoop up anyone on this Panthers offense this year?
I do like Miles Sanders at price. He's going to be like a 0 RB guy. He's a guy who's going to be a 3-down workhorse for a team that, sure, won't be very good, but volume. And if I'm in a redraft league and he's sitting around there and I went on a heavy R wide receiver build in the beginning, I'm into it. Also, I think Hayden Hurst has some good best ball value. I'm going to continue to believe in Terrace Marshall Jr. until the wheels fall off, because I've already signed up for that car ride and there's no getting out now. So, but I don't really want anything to do with Thielen. I don't know what to think about Mingo and Bryce Young, not this year. I just got to let him do his thing this year. Maybe a late best ball flyer if I need some late stacks because I got sniped on somebody. But other than that, I kind of like Sanders, obviously Terrace Marshall Jr. and Hayden Hurst, but that's about it.
I'm intrigued in a sense because this division isn't very good. The defenses aren't that good. I think Bryce Young is a floor raiser. I think he'll be good when he comes in. I don't know about for fantasy purposes. You kind of nailed it, Aiden, in terms of rushing. I think Miles Sanders is the guy you have to circle on this team, and I think you need to come away with an opinion because Keegan's right. Just like last year, he's going to be floating around in the middle of rounds, and he has that kind of lead back workhorse vibe. Now, he did split the backfield last year and played in the best rushing attack in the NFL, and he benefited greatly from it. He may see a decreased efficiency this season in Carolina on a worse team, but if he is on the field for every down and he is catching passes, you got to take him seriously. I don't know if I'm buying that yet. Yeah, if he's going to play all 3 downs and catch the ball, that offensive line's good enough. Frank Reich's a good enough coach. He's talented enough where he may sneak in on like a top 16, top 14 running back season. I just don't know if I believe it. Frank Reich's the same head coach who said draft Nyheim Hines. How did that go for us? I don't know. I think I'd rather stay away, but I can see why people are intrigued, and some smart people are intrigued. So I think that's kind of the focal point. Terrace Marshall might be a decent shot in the dark, but I think this offense is going to be pretty slow. I don't know. I think this is I think this is a good defense. Try and control the ball team to start the year, and maybe they win some games and shock some people, but they're a couple injuries away from being one of the worst teams in football again. So I think I'm good. I don't think I need a ton of Carolina Panthers this year, especially if I'm counting on Miles Sanders